Hi there, and welcome to the online classroom here at Sallie Tomato. I'm Kate, and today we'll be making June, a sewing machine cover reminiscent of June Cleaver, the 1950s paragon of neat and tidy. You'll easily keep organized with two mesh side pockets for larger items and a zip closure pocket to secure smaller items, all while protecting your sewing machine from dust and sun exposure. Your pattern supplies can be purchased at our website or request them at your local quilt shop. Please shop local whenever you can. Are you ready to sew? Open your pattern and let's get started.
The finished cover size is going to vary depending on the size of your machine. The cover I'll be making is approximately 22 inches wide by 12.5 inches high by 8 inches deep. Before beginning, please take a minute to review the recommended fabrics on the back of your pattern cover and the pattern corrections page on our website so you have the most current information. You'll need a main fabric, contrast fabric, lining, mesh, fold-over elastic, sew-in foam, fusible interfacing, and craft paper or a piece of cardstock. Then you'll need a double slide zipper and an optional metal handmade label. The Sallie Tomato hardware is available in nickel, gold, antique, gunmetal, and rose gold, so your hardware choice will complement your fabrics. Another designer option is a laser cut faux leather monogram. Before you begin sewing, gather a few tools and notions to have on hand. Rotary cutter, scissors, sulky 40 weight polydeco thread, which looks great for top stitching and is very durable. Clover wonder clips, pins, chalk or removable pen, basting tape, basting spray or glue, stiletto, turning tool, and a zipper foot. Refer to the cutting instructions in your pattern for details in customizing your sewing machine cover. And if you find it helpful, label your pieces as you cut them by marking the name of each piece on the wrong side with a removable pen or piece of chalk. Center and fuse the interfacing pieces to the wrong side of the coordinating lining pieces A and B. Also center and fuse the interfacing to the wrong side of the contrast fabric pieces C. And finally, fuse one piece I to the wrong sides of lining and contrast pieces D, the zipper pocket gusset, aligned along one long edge. Now would be a perfect time to add embroidery, applique, or other flat decoration to the right side of the main fabric pieces A, front or back, or the main fabric piece B zipper pocket. With right sides up, position one main fabric piece A front on one foam piece A, aligning all the edges. Use basting spray or sewing clips to hold the layers together while sewing. Baste all four sides, referring to your pattern for the stitch lengths and allowances. A basting stitch is just holding layers together more permanently so it can be longer than a top stitch and is not going to be visible. A walking foot or Teflon foot may be helpful for sewing laminated cotton, waxed canvas, cork, and faux leather fabrics. Repeat the same steps for the foam and the main piece C zipper pocket. Trim away the excess foam close to the stitching without snipping into the stitches. Let's add shaping to piece A. Measure and mark in from the top corner. Then draw a line from the mark to the adjacent bottom corner to create an angle. Position the corner template that's found in your pattern inside the marked angle. Trace the outer curve of the template from edge to edge. Now baste just in from the marked lines. Cut along the marked line, angling the side and rounding the top corner. Repeat the same steps for the opposite side and the remaining piece A and the lining pieces A. You'll also measure and mark the main and lining fabric pieces B for the zipper pocket. Refer to your pattern for the correct measurement, shaping the sides and the top corners. Now we can assemble the front and back panels. With right sides together, place one lining piece A over main piece A exterior, matching the raw edges. Hold those layers together with pins or sewing clips. Then at the machine, begin sewing at the bottom edge of piece A. Sew all 4 sides, leaving an opening at the bottom edge for turning. Trim each bottom corner, being careful not to cut through the stitching. Clip notches into the top curved corners to reduce the bulk. Turn the panel right side out, then press all the edges flat and smooth. Next, pin or add basting tape to the opening seam allowance to hold it securely. At the machine, top stitch along the bottom edge, closing the turning opening at the same time. Repeat the steps to complete the remaining main panel A. Now it's on to the mesh pocket sleeve. Check that the stretch of the mesh is along the width of the pocket. Then align the long raw side edge of the mesh piece F zipper pocket sleeve along the center of the elastic piece H. Fold the elastic in half, encasing the raw edge of the mesh, and then top stitch in place along the aligned edges of the elastic. Repeat for the opposite side of the mesh sleeve. With right sides up, center the piece F on top of lining piece C, aligning the top and bottom edges. Hold in place with pins or sewing clips. Baste piece F in place along the top and bottom edges. Set the lining piece aside and let's move on to the zipper. Press a hem allowance to the wrong side along the long, non-interface top edge of the contrast and lining piece D zipper pocket gussets. With the zipper right side up and the pressed edges of both pieces D along the top, sandwich one end of the zipper in between both pieces D, aligning the short raw edges. The right side of contrast piece D will be against the right side of the zipper, and the right side of lining piece D will be against the wrong side of the zipper. Sew the layers together, then fold each piece D away from the zipper and finger press. Now you'll top stitch along the seam. Repeat the same process to attach and top stitch the remaining short raw edge of each piece D to the opposite raw end of the zipper. Fold the assembled zipper in half, matching gusset seams to find and mark the center top that will be on the zipper tape, and then the zipper bottom, which will be in the zipper gusset. The next step is to mark the center of the top and bottom edges of the main piece B zipper pocket. If you like, add a handmade label centered below the top raw edge of piece B. Be sure to visit youtube.com/Sallie Tomato to watch a video tutorial for installing this hardware. With right sides together, match the top and bottom center marks of piece B and the zipper. Pin or clip the zipper to piece B, aligning the zipper tape and the gusset raw edge to the raw edge of piece B. Take small snips into the zipper tape along the curved corners to help keep the tape smooth. Sew together with a scant seam allowance, beginning near one bottom corner and ending near the opposite bottom corner. Using a zipper foot or a narrow foot can help maintain the seam allowance. Also, move the zipper pulls out of the way as you sew. Remember to backstitch at both ends of the seam. Clip the gusset seam allowance up to, but not through, the last stitch at both corners. Align the raw edges of piece B, the gusset, and zipper tape. Sew the layers together along the remaining sides with a scant seam allowance. Place the right side of lining piece B to the right side of main piece B and the wrong side of the zipper. Sew the layers together, leaving about 4 inches unsewn along the bottom gusset edge. Trim the bottom corners and snip notches into the top curved corners to reduce the bulk. Turn the assembled zipper pocket right side out by pushing the fabric through the unsewn section. Turn the raw edges of the opening to the wrong side and add a piece of basting tape to hold the seam allowances together. At the machine, top stitch along the pocket edge. We're ready to attach the zipper pocket to the front. First, make the pocket placement template, following the detailed instructions in your pattern. Mark the center top and center bottom on the template. Now center the pocket placement template on the right side of the front piece A, just up from the bottom edge. Trace around the placement template using a removable pen or piece of chalk. Also, mark the center top and center bottom on the fabric. With right sides together, match the bottom center of the pressed zipper gusset edge to the bottom center mark on the front piece A. Pin the gusset edge along the traced bottom line. Top stitch the gusset in place, beginning and ending at the marked corners. Open the zipper completely and with right sides together, match the top center of the zipper with the top center mark on piece A. Pin just 1/2 of the zipper tape along the marked line. Begin sewing at the top center, continuing down to the bottom corner as far as your presser foot will allow. I really like the Clover Hold It Stiletto. Both ends help adjust the zipper tape edge as I'm sewing. A zipper foot or a narrow foot can also help maintain the seam allowance. And be aware of the zipper pulls. You'll be stitching very close to them at the bottom corners. You're going to repeat the sewing for the remaining half of the zipper. Align the top raw edge of the mesh piece E side pocket along the center of the elastic piece G. Fold piece G in half, encasing the raw edge of piece E. Now top stitch in place, stretching the elastic even with the mesh as you sew. With right sides up, position one piece E on one interfaced contrast piece C side, aligning the side edges. Also align the bottom edge, centering a pleat in the mesh so it's flat on piece C. Baste piece E in place, sewing along the raw edges. With right sides together, place one lining piece C side over contrast piece C, matching the raw edges. Begin sewing at the top edge of the side piece. That's the end without the pocket. Sew along all 4 sides, leaving an opening at the top for turning. You may notice I'm taking a single diagonal stitch at the corners. This helps the thicker layers at the corner turn neatly. Take a minute to trim the corners, but be careful to not cut through the stitching. Turn the side panel right side out. Fold the seam allowance at the opening to the wrong side, which creates an even edge along the top. Then you'll press all the edges. Now top stitch the seams along the short top and bottom edges. Repeat the steps for the remaining pieces to assemble the second side panel. And now we can begin assembly. Place the lining sides together, aligning the bottom corners and the long edges of one main panel and one side panel. Hold the layers together with sewing clips. If you'd like, you can align the second side panel overlapping the top edges. Top stitch along the seams, beginning at the bottom edge, removing the clips as you sew. Take a moment to check that the overlapped top edges don't shift as you're sewing. Attach the remaining main panel to the side panels, matching the bottom corners and the center overlap. Hold the aligned seams together with sewing clips. Then at the sewing machine, top stitch from one corner to the opposite corner. You'll leave the top overlapped edges unstitched. It allows easy access to use the sewing machine's handle.
Your June sewing machine cover is ready to protect your precious machine. Remember to personalize your cover with a monogram, a clever saying, embroidery, or use a favorite fabric. We'd love to see your finished project, so be sure to tag us at #Sallie Tomato and #June machine cover. We'd love to see how you customize your machine covers, and let us know if you found this tutorial helpful. Your notes help us improve. Thanks for joining me and have a great making day.